Welcome. We're here today for the Synergy Challenge. This is Andi Stix, and we are interviewing Robert Fuhrer, who is the president of Nextoy. Welcome, Robert. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Very good. Could you describe specifically your expertise in the gaming industry?
Sure. For about 30 years, my company, Nextoy, has specialized in placing new product ideas with toys and games companies. For the most part, our expertise has been for games and skill and action games that are plastic with mechanisms. Some use batteries, some don't. These days, my focus is on marketing a brain puzzle named Ken, a logic and math puzzle.
You look at so many potential ideas. What criteria do you use to determine what might excite a game company?
There are a lot of factors that go into the kind of products that we look at for a toy and game company. First is the object of the game has to be very easily and clearly explained in just a sentence or two. There should also be a simple storyline, even if it's kind of silly. The name is important. It should be descriptive but fun sounding. I would say one example might be one of our classic games that came out about 20 years ago. It's called Crocodile Dentist. And the object is to pull out the bad tooth of a crocodile. So it's it's a simple story. It's got a descriptive name, and it's a little bit silly. So what we look for the most part, is originality and some kind of feeling of magic. What's great would be if we saw something that was a completely new way to play a game. There are examples of what new ways to play games are. When they first came out, one would be there's a game called Bop It, which your audience may know. It's an electronic game telling players to complete certain physical commands, and it gets faster and faster. It's harder and harder. It's easy to describe how to play. The challenges gets very deep, but it's not easily mastered. There's another game on the market called Elephant, where a fan blows butterflies through an elephant's nose. The players capture them. Both of these are exciting to watch and can be advertised in 15 or 30 seconds.
For what reasons do some categories of games, such as deductive logic games, do better than word games?
So, in word games, pretty much, we talk about Scrabble, we can speak about Boggle, we can speak about typical, traditional crosswords. And there's another game called Upwards. These games tend to satisfy the market for word games. And toy companies, game companies are reluctant to, really invest more in this category. There's a caveat with that, is that if you have a completely new way to play a game and it's fun and interesting, by all means, you should develop it. That's kind of the key. Deductive games, there are a lot of great deductive logic games. The examples are Guess Who. I'm going to talk about some of the popular ones. Guess Who, Battleship, Stratego, Mastermind, Clue. And in recent years, Sudoku and our game Ken is deductive. These develop great thinking skills. They're fun to play. They're for all ages. And they also have international appeal. A lot of word games automatically aren't easily developed internationally because they're language-based.
Interesting. So in what ways does the simplicity or the complexity of a game determine or not determine success?
If we're talking about success as sales success, it really depends upon the game category and the age target. Video games and apps, for instance, need a lot of depth and complexity. Skill and action games or card games need simplicity. However, in all cases, explaining the object of the game quickly and simply is always necessary. in games, most cases with games, we have somebody that we refer to as the rules shepherd. This is the person that learns the rules and then explains it to other people playing the game. If it's too complicated, it's too hard to do, other players will lose interest, and it's not going to be a success. Maybe a good example of it, of what might be simple and have a lot of depth and fun is a game like Angry Birds, which you can describe simply, launch birds at pigs, but as the game advances, there are new and seemingly never-ending challenges.
Mm-hmm. So how do they use market research? Can you explain it in layman's terms when they know that something has the potential of being successful?
It can be really valuable, but it can also be a little bit useless. So one thing it does well is it can help you, when we're talking about toys and games, these are for children, you can watch how kids will play with a game, what features they particularly may like or dislike. You may get surprised there. I find it also interesting to listen to what kids say when they're playing, and sometimes, these can be used. I remember one time we were testing a memory game, and a child said the line, "You have to remember not to forget." And I loved that line, and it ended up being used on the package as a tagline. But it's really difficult to predict market success. For example, most toys and games these days undergo rigorous market testing because there's a huge investment in making them. A lot of them are plastic. They need engineering and safety and all kinds of tooling, product development. It's a long process. It's very complex. It's very expensive. So the companies don't want to make a mistake. However, if you suppose that any game that comes to the market has performed well in the market tests, then all games coming to the market under this thinking should be successful. Because you'd think that games that do poorly in the testing would be invested in, but that's not the case, because of course there are products that come to market and failed. So it really depends what you're looking for in the market testing.
So what piece of advice would you give our parents, our teachers, and students, especially for the Synergy Challenge game-making competition?
Well, in the toy industry, we have a word that it's a made-up word, and it's toyetic. So at the end, product has to be fun. It has to be, that's what really toyetic is. It has to be easy to explain the object of, and it should offer an original way to play something, to play a product. So, these factors kind of create the magic of whether, the product is going to come to the market or not.
Interesting. Okay. So fun is the key word, and I think that kids would love to hear that for once. That something that they're designing has to be fun.
In skill and action games, which has been our specialty, the target age is rather young. It's 3 or 4, up to about 7. Animals are frequently used for these themes. In this case, I think it's great to emphasize what is that particular animal's trait. For instance, if you think of an elephant, what do you think of? You think of the nose, the trunk. For a giraffe, you think of a long neck. For a skunk, it's the tail and the smell. And for a crocodile, it's the mouth and the teeth. A frog, it's hopping, etc. So you really should utilize this element in the gameplay and the fun, and come up with something around it. For instance, if you're talking about an elephant and it's the nose, maybe there's a game about an elephant sneezing. It sounds kind of funny, and it would make sense.
That sounds great. Well, we want to thank you so much for your time today, and I hope that the advice that Bob Fuhrer has given to you from Nextoy will be of benefit. Thank you so much, Bob, for your time.
Well, thanks a lot, Andy.
All right, this is Andi Stix from the Synergy Challenge. Take care, everybody.